Well, first of all, I want to say sort of congrats. This season's it's great, and episode 2, I sort of really loved it. Loki's in such a bad place at the start of this season, and you kind of have the privilege of getting to sort of toy with him, part hero, part villain, part anti-hero. What's that sort of like as a director, getting to approach like such a complex character at this sort of stage in his sort of life?
Well, I think it's something you relish. I think it's you really want to kind of find the different facets of a character, and especially a character like Loki, who after season 1 had become much more complicated. He was now seeing what the consequences of his actions from the other movies, and from a point where he was pretty much the evil Loki. So it was a pretty big shock to the system. And so in season 2, we were able to slow down in this episode and really kind of see, based on the interactions of Loki and Mobius and Loki, and Brad Wolf, who he's becoming. In the season 1, they were Mobius and Loki were very much at odds with each other, and in this one, they are starting to understand each other. And so suddenly the God of Mischief has someone he trusts. Probably for the first time in his life. Yeah.
And obviously, season 1 was such a success for Marvel, and like so highly sort of praised by the fans. And it creates such an interesting world, and the way it sort of ends off with He Who Remains. It puts the sort of world of Marvel in such an interesting place. What's the vibe like going into season 2, and what kind of pressures does that sort of give you as a director?
Well, I think we were very confident in terms of the direction we were going. I think it's, you have an amazing team with all the different directors that worked on the season, and Justin and Aaron, in terms of how they worked on getting the look and pushing it even more of in a cinematic direction, and the writers and the understanding, and especially Tom Hiddleston with his understanding of the character. So we were all in very safe hands, and I think we all have a very great team to kind of put our minds to it and push the series forward. And we had a really great idea. A lot of everything's at the base of everything. It's a very kind of a philosophy class in terms of like sense of self and sense of destiny, and that's what drives us forward, which is great.
Yeah, obviously the world of the TVA and time traveling in general provides such a rich creative tapestry, I think, for any sort of filmmaker. What's it like sort of playing in that sandbox as a director?
It's great. You have the ability to go to 70s London in the 80s to a McDonald's, and it's visually it's very rich, and you can tweak the shooting style slightly and the lighting slightly to kind of go with those different time periods, and you also have now your characters reacting to that, and what does it mean in terms of Brad Wolf going to the timeline and enjoying it and finding his true life, and then the team showing up at McDonald's to find Sylvie and kind of ripping herself out of that life. It's really great.
Well, I mean, I was going to sort of you touched upon it there, but like the McDonald's, like going back to sort of an 80s McDonald's must have been really fun to sort of like try and recreate sort of as best as you can.
Yeah, it was great. We first started talking about it, and it was something that, as we talked to the crew and saying this is kind of what we're thinking about, it was interesting that everyone had this kind of story from childhood of being at a McDonald's, just something that would catch in their memory. So it seemed that it was, a good choice for, a place that's, as a example of what kind of normal life would be, and a place that Sylvie might want to settle down. So it was we had a great relationship with McDonald's, and our production designer, Kazra, he got the different wallpaper to put on the wall. He got the mold of the Hamburglar to recreate that, and so when we first walked into it, it was basically a restaurant that had been empty for a while, and Kazra, a lot of hand waving, it's gonna be great. And then when you walked in for the first time and you see the Hamburglar and the tree, and you're just kind of instantly like, oh my God, it's the 80s again.
Crazy, yeah. And finally, I just wanted to ask, obviously when you're working on a series like this, there's so many sort of directors that sort of take over each episode. How do you what's that sort of collaborative process like to make sure that, you're kind of maintaining a style through it, but still getting to do your own thing and tell your own story as well?
I think it's something that Kevin Wright, our executive producer, kind of a style that he had set up, that when we all arrived in London, we would work on the scripts, but we would all be together. We'd have the writers in the room, and then all the directors would be there, and then as the scripts got to a certain point, we'd invite the actors in, and they would, we'd kind of vet the script and see if it was honest to what the characters would do. but we were there for everyone's episode. It wasn't just our episode. So you not only did you were able to contribute and everyone would make an episode better, but you were in on what was happening. So if you had to make a decision on the day within your episode, you already knew what decision Aaron and Justin might have made on their episode. So I think that was a great part of the success, keeping the continuity between the different episodes intact.